I would say that Maestro Toscanini was a unique performer. I mean, his extraordinary discipline, cleanliness, and yet great freedom. That is the thing that made him, as a performer, an immortal one.
The voice you have just heard was that of famed cellist Gregor Piatigorsky, our guest at intermission time. The program you are hearing is Toscanini, the man behind the legend. Welcome once again to our broadcast series, Toscanini, the man behind the legend. Each week, NBC brings you music conducted by the maestro, and during intermission, we meet his friends and colleagues to chat informally with them about their recollections and treasured memories of their association with this giant of the podium, Arturo Toscanini. On this occasion, our music will consist of works by Rossini and Schumann, and the world-renowned cello virtuoso, Gregor Piatigorsky, will be our guest in a warm and intimate word portrait of his friend, Arturo Toscanini. Our concert begins as the NBC Symphony Orchestra, under the baton of Arturo Toscanini, plays the Semiramide Overture by Giacomo Rossini.
Maestro Toscanini, who had retired to the wings, comes forward again. His appearance signal for renewed applause and give this performance of Rossini's Overture to Semiramide.
The Semiramide Overture by Rossini brings us to Intermission time, where it's our pleasure to welcome to our NBC microphones the distinguished cellist and colleague of Maestro Toscanini, Gregor Piatigorsky. Mr. Piatigorsky, I know that you've enjoyed many years of both professional and personal friendship with the maestro. When did you first meet him?
Well, it was in 1929.
Mm-hmm. You, as a world-distinguished cellist, were you playing a concert with him?
The first time we played together, it was in New York in 1932, I believe. We gave the world premiere of the cello concerto by Castelnuovo Tedesco. And then, of course, privately, I was very fortunate indeed, as a much younger man, the maestro was, to be very, very good friends and very intimate relations. Making music together, of course, remains unforgettable.
What would you say with the quality, since you have been soloist with the great conductors of the world? What did Toscanini do or have in his relationship with the orchestra and with the soloist?
Well, I would say that Maestro Toscanini was a unique performer. I mean, his extraordinary discipline, cleanliness, and yet great freedom. See, he was fighting so-called chaotic self-expression by artists, who made the composer serve him. He was the servant. He tried to penetrate what the composer wanted, and then he went ruthlessly
after it.
After it. Now, as a great composer is never pedantic, so Toscanini was never pedantic. As the great music demanded enormous imagination, enormous freedom.
Yes.
So his discipline was within
yes.
Discipline. That's why, his proudest moments were when he really felt as a servant of music. And he was a very great one.
Toscanini was a cellist.
Yes, he was a cellist.
He played your instrument.
That's right. Once in our crossings together, we used to travel a lot together, between Europe and this country. And my ambition was once to lure him in my cabin and let him play the cello, But he tuned it and he tuned the cello until there was time for lunch. So I never heard him play the cello. I wonder if there is anyone who heard him. Of course, he has a very peculiar sense of humor, and maybe he just stalled it. He didn't want to play.
He just stalled until lunch rather than play for Piatigorsky.
But he knew the cello literature very, very well, because he used as a student of the cello. He used to accompany in the class of his professor. In Parma, I believe it was Professor Carini. So he used to accompany in that class. So he knew all the pupils' stuff, all the pupils' music, very obscure composers, Grützmacher, Goltermann, Romberg, and so on. He loved to play it with me, always asking, now let's play.
So Toscanini,
Romberg.
He would be at the piano?
Yes, he would be at the piano, and he would play the old-timers, you see, that only cello students know. And no one else.
He also had a little private Piatigorsky recital. When was the last time you saw Maestro?
Last time I saw Maestro in Milano, that was the year he died. I came about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and I left at 3 o'clock in the morning.
All day
we were together, yes, and most of the time we spent talking all the time. He was over 90, I believe, at that time.
Yes.
But he was, as usual, with enormous vigor, and he listened to his records, hundreds of them. He liked to listen to them very loud, you could hear 2 miles away, very loud. And so we listened to his records, we discussed, think, and so on. Finally, when at 3 o'clock in the morning, just before leaving, and he was with his wonderful smile, tender smile. He said to me, I want to give you something. I want to give you a present. Please tell me, what can I give you? So, of course, I suggest, Maestro, stay well, be healthy, be happy. That's what I want. No, I want to give you something. I said, well, I think it was about 25 or 30 years ago, I asked you for your photo. And he says, what? All these years you waited and I did not give you? And he started to scream.
At 3 in the morning.
And he saw a tremendous excitement, and finally he wanted to give a huge photo of his, which was hung on the wall, and his daughter, Wally, said, now, look, Grisha, they call me Grisha, Grisha can't travel with his cello and this huge photo use, you must give something. No, that is the best I have, and that's what he going to have. And he tried to tear it from the wall. Finally, he didn't give it. But next morning, before I left the hotel, which was before 7, the man at the reception, they said that Maestro Toscanini just left. And here is, he left an envelope for you. And in this envelope there were 2 photos of his. One written in Italian, in red ink, and the other in English. And later in the train I read it, I must say, I just burst in tears, because such a dedication I never received from anyone. It is my great pride, because he was a very great lover of mine, as I believe he was of everyone else who loved the music.
Thank you, Gregor Piatigorsky. Our guest has been the eminent cellist and friend of Maestro Arturo Toscanini, Gregor Piatigorsky.
Here is Fred Calland in conversation with the daughter of Maestro Toscanini, Madame Wanda Toscanini Horowitz.
Madame, how do you account for the fact that now, 21 years after your father's death, he is still one of the most potent forces in music in this country and around the world?
Well, I think it's always difficult to define what makes an artist more popular than another, besides having their own talent, their personal talent. There's always something more than the talent that attracts, that has an attraction to the public, is what they call the famous personality or charisma. And some people have it and some people don't. Might have been conductors who were more talented than my father was, and they didn't have that charisma or magnetism on the public, which I think is part of the talent, but also it's something added to the talent. Another thing also that was added to my father's career as a conductor was the political figure that he represented. The stand that he took against fascism, what happened with Mussolini in Bologna when they slapped him and they took away his passport. Then the stand he took against Hitler when he started to persecute all the Jewish artists. And my father took a stand. He went to Palestine at that time in 1936 for the first time, when the violinist Huberman founded the Palestine Orchestra, and he went against his own government, but he took a stand. And I think that has helped also to keep his name more alive than other conductors who just conducted.
Well, tell me, was the maestro always interested in political things? Or did this just come on?
Yes, all his life.
Oh?
All his life, yes. Well, he comes from a family of Garibaldini. His father was a follower of Garibaldi, the national hero. He was a Republican. He was never very fond of the monarchy in Italy. So he was always involved, not direct, but he has his political conviction since he was a young man.
There were not many other conductors, for example, and most artists don't get involved in politics, do they?
No, I don't think so. I think one mistake that artists do, they say, I'm an artist, I don't want to be a politician. But before being an artist, I think you are a human being. You are a citizen of your country, or you are a citizen of the world as an artist. So I think that they have a duty, because coming from an artist, an example coming from an artist has a tremendous weight on the public. So that's, I think, is one of the many reasons that my father's name is still alive after 21 years after his death.
For example, tell us about the Hymn of the Nations.
Well, the other night at Alice Tully, they gave an evening of old movies with singers of the past, and the concert ended with the Hymn of the Nation, which was a film done by the Office of War Information in 1944, and was shown to all the troops all over the world. And that was a piece that Verdi composed for the exhibition in England in well, it makes no difference, the dates. Mm-hmm. Anyway, I hadn't seen the film for many years. At that time, my father was 77. First of all, he looked much younger, and he made me feel very jealous because he didn't have one wrinkle in his face, and he was very, very trimmed. Besides the impact there was in his conducting, and I think that unfortunately so few people have seen him, or the new generation seen him conducting, and that is too bad, because whatever you can get out of a record is not the same thing as when you see the artist in person, and through a film you have a greater contact with the artist than through a record.
Our concert resumes now as the NBC Symphony Orchestra, under the baton of Arturo Toscanini, plays the Symphony No. 3, the Rhenish Symphony of Robert Schumann.
That was Schumann's Rhenish Symphony, Arturo Toscanini conducting.
This performance of the Symphony No. 3 by Robert Schumann, with Arturo Toscanini conducting the NBC Symphony Orchestra, brings us to the close of another broadcast of NBC's concert series, Toscanini, the man behind the legend. Earlier, we heard the Semiramide Overture of Giacomo Rossini, and our intermission guest was Gregor Piatigorsky. Next week, our program will include works by Bizet, Paganini, Waldteufel, and von Weber. Our guest at intermission time will be one of Maestro Toscanini's very special friends, Antonino Rocca, with an unusual story about Maestro Toscanini and wrestling. We cordially invite you to join us then, when once again we bring you Toscanini, the man behind the legend. Script materials for this program are taken from the files of the Toscanini family at Riverdale, New York, and the program is produced for NBC under the supervision of Don Gillis. This is Ben Grauer speaking.